to the right, caught over the middle, and into.
He's at the 45. Are you kidding? He's going to go!
Brady gets hit, the ball is out, and Philadelphia has it.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Turf Talk, streaming to you guys live on DSM Media's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. If you're new to the channel, make sure you head on over to @DSM_media on Twitter. Hit that follow button. We greatly appreciate it. And while you're over on the page, check out the link tree in our bio to take you to every social media platform we are available on. The best and most important platform to get your thoughts, comments, questions, and concerns pulled up on the screen is the DSM Media YouTube channel. So make sure you click on that link, head on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, like this video, whatever you got to do, turn on notifications as we say here, and join the conversation on each and every one of the shows here at DSM and make it more fun for us, for you, and make it more interactive. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. You can find me on Twitter at DylanJD98. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. You can find him on Twitter as well at Scotty Drown. It is another Victory Monday here in the Philadelphia area for myself and Scotty. So that's what we'll be leading tonight's show off with, as the Eagles absolutely thump the Tennessee Titans 35-10 yesterday. The Cowboys run up the score on the Indianapolis Colts last night. They drop a 50-burger. We'll get into those two dominating games. Tua, San Fran defense, that matchup. Mahomes, Burrow, that matchup. Jets, Vikings, down to all those games. There was a tie in New York, right, man? There's a lot to get to tonight. Yeah. We might break the record on length of show here. So, guys, like I said, join the conversation. But, Scotty, how is your Monday, my man?
It's going pretty good, man. Had a good time with the World Cup earlier today. As I told you, I enjoy the morning betting. So, got a few W's earlier, as I'm sure you did yourself. So that's always a nice way to start out your Monday. But then also, obviously, we're wearing some Phillies gear as well. So Monday's going pretty great. We pick up Trey Turner, probably arguably the biggest signing so far, up until Judge gets landed.
Yeah,
right?
man,
So,
that's it as far as position players will go, man. But you're right. I think that's kind of the sentiment right now in the Philadelphia area, right? Like 11-1 Eagles. You and I are prepping for this show to talk about how dominating they were. Jalen Hurts, MVP. 1 seed, all this stuff, and it's like they're on the back burner for today because of what Dave Dombrowski and John Middleton just went out and did, and now it's like, man, just give me the opening day. But you are right, man. Let's get into some Eagles
and James Harden returns.
Yeah.
Philly's popping right now. Yeah,
the Sixers are on a low right now, man. But whoever we got in here right now, you can join myself and Scotty on the Sixers pregame show at 7 p.m. tonight on the YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk about that Rockets game and Harden's debut back, hopefully. But let's get into this Eagles-Titans matchup, man. And I want to start off by throwing this to you. For all those people who were still shaky on a 10-1 football team heading into this weekend, for all those people who were kind of waiting for that quote-unquote moment for it to feel real. Remember in 2017, there were moments throughout the season where it felt kind of a magical run. All those people, it doesn't have that feel, right? You got your moment. Yesterday was your moment. This was a statement from the Philadelphia Eagles, Scotty. This was a complete and utter thumping. And while this was a complete beatdown, it still wasn't even the best football that this Eagles team is capable of playing because of their sloppiness in the game. It was probably the sloppiest game that they and this offensive line have and will play all season. And they still won 35-10. 1 week after totaling 360 plus yards on the ground and dropping 40 on the Green Bay Packers while Jalen Hurts beats them with his legs. They dropped 35 in an air raid attack. He's 29 of 39. 380. Doesn't even have to play in the fourth quarter. 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown. A.J. Brown gets his revenge on his former team, right? Devontae Smith has over 100 yards and a touchdown as well. Even the special teams cleaned things up yesterday, Scotty. All of this. And the biggest question all week was what? How can they ever stop or shut down Derrick Henry? Derrick Henry had 3 fantasy points yesterday, people. Derrick Henry had 11 carries for 30 yards. Darius Slay and James Bradbury didn't allow a completion when targeted by Ryan Tannehill yesterday. For all those Jonathan Gannon, and listen, Scotty, you know we are not supporters of JG, right? We are not here to defend him week in and week out. We see the shortcomings and the flaws in his defense, right? But he showed a big ability to adjust yesterday. Gannon played with 8 or more in the box on over 40% of defensive snaps yesterday. Before that game, they hadn't had a game with 8+ in the box 10% of the time. This was a complete and utter statement by the Eagles, all 3 phases of the game, both halves. Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni, Jonathan Gannon, defensive line. It was incredible to watch, man. What were your thoughts on this performance?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. It was more or less just the Eagles answering any further questions. So, like, you come into this game, we talked about it before the game on Turf Talk last week. The Eagles, they're only a run. They're a one-dimensional run team, right? That's all they can do on offense is run the football. We knew that wasn't true going into this game, quite honestly. But if you're an outsider looking in, this was the game that you'll look at and you'll be like, oh, well, they do pass the freaking football. Jalen Hurts has been doing it all season, man. Yeah. And this isn't like the first game where he's gone over 300 yards. Like this isn't even the best game, right, that they've had all season. But it may be the best passing game. I may have to take my words back for that. But it isn't the best, and it isn't the most clean game that the Eagles have even played this season, right? But it still looks so good. They still win the game by 25 points. They still go for over 400 overall scrimmage yards, right, on offense. So you look at this team, they just continue to check boxes off. The run game, they've done it the last 2 weeks, even before this Derrick Henry matchup against Jonathan Taylor, against Aaron Jones. They come into this game, they're still getting questioned. You get Jordan Davis back. You shut Derrick Henry all the way down. This Titans team, they didn't even look like they were in the same class as the Eagles. No. You're looking at a Titans team that people are trying to discredit now that the Eagles have beaten them, obviously. They went out and played the Cincinnati Bengals last week. The Bengals only beat the Titans by 3. They beat the Tennessee Titans by 3 points, and then they come out and beat the Chiefs this week. We're not going to go week to week. We're not going to go matchup to matchup, anything like that. But I'm just pointing out obvious things here that you don't just discredit the Titans. This is a team that we were talking about as being better than a Ravens team, right? We talked about that with power rankings, who we would take over the Ravens at this point. The Titans are a solid team. They're a team with an identity. They understand themselves, and they were not able to emphasize that identity against us because the Eagles are too strong. That's what it is. They're too balanced. You come in, you think if you can just shut down the run against the Eagles and that's going to be it. Well, they come and throw everything over your head. The A.J. Brown touchdown, the second one. How do you stop that? What are you doing to stop that? That's that play. What was it against the Washington Commanders where it bounces off A.J.'s hands and goes into the other guy's hands?
Yeah.
That's the same exact play, except AJ's made that play 3 or 4 times this season. So, Pittsburgh, good luck stopping it. Exactly. Good luck stopping this offense because they've answered all the questions that have been given so far. And on the Jonathan Gannon situation, maybe this isn't a credit to Jonathan Gannon. Maybe it was a great day for the D line, but you got to give some credit to Jonathan Gannon at some point, guys. Like, at some point, the numbers don't lie, right? There hasn't been this huge offensive output from any team this season, right? The worst games being the Green Bay and the Detroit game, the first game of the season, defensively. This guy, he keeps making improvements to the defense, right? We're stopping the run now. You see this defensive line, they get 6 sacks yesterday against Ryan Tannehill, totally take him out of the game after that good starting drive for him. I believe it was their second drive of the game. They got 7. All around, man, the Eagles just keep checking boxes off. You mentioned the special teams. I don't need to say anything further with that. They did their thing. This team just continues not only to be the best team in the NFL, which there's no argument against that right
now.
Not
the moment, no.
They continue to answer any questions about weaknesses, blind spots. There is none of that. And I guarantee you the OL penalties, that problem, that'll be cleaned up next week by Jeff Stoutland. That will not happen again. You're right. That'll probably be the worst of the season because that will not happen again.
No, this breakdown's going to be fun, man. Listen, we're 10 minutes in, and I got a lot more to get to with you. There's so much you just said. I want to continue this conversation.
Yeah.
Start with a few things, right? You talk about Jonathan Gannon defense. When's it time to give him his flowers, or not even give him his flowers, just give him a sliver of a compliment, right? And a pat on the back, right? Because when it looks bad, it's all his fault. But when it looks good, it's not on him. Let me read you some stats, Scotty. I sent these to you earlier. The 2022 Eagles defense, turnover differential, first. They lead the league in interceptions. 178.5 passing yards per game allowed, first. 296.4 total yards per game allowed, second. 42 sacks, second. 18.8 points per game allowed, under 19 points per game, tied for seventh. But everybody will tell you how bad and how flawed this defense is. I tell you week in and week out, I'm not naive enough to pretend like the scheme and the philosophy isn't flawed, to see the holes in the run defense here and there. But what are you going to tell? Jonathan Taylor 2 weeks ago, right? First drive, I understand you. After that, did nothing. Derrick Henry, 30 rushing yards. What's your argument? The Linval Joseph pickup was incredible, and Ndamukong Suh has been almost just as good for this defensive line. Jordan Davis being back helps everything in the interior as well.
And I even got really more to add to your point there. This is without CGJ, who's leading the NFL in interceptions.
And Avonte Maddox.
Out Avonte Maddox, Robert Quinn. Like, these guys aren't there. Kaiser White goes out of this game. We're obviously going to have to talk about Nakobe Dean. But the players that are not there, and these guys are filling in seamlessly. Reed Blankenship, I didn't notice him yesterday. That's a good thing, right?
A great thing.
That's a great thing. He didn't get beat. So that was the big thing there. It's crazy. I saw Josiah Scott come up and make a tackle on Derrick Henry in open field.
This Ellis dude that they just brought up this week to play special teams had 2 or 3 eye-popping plays that I didn't even know he existed.
I didn't know until he cracked somebody. I did not know who he was, bro. I swear, 100%. Man.
So the Gannon part is a huge thing to me. This defense is a huge thing to me, right? The second thing, the competition, right? Because it's been the negative or the dark cloud surrounding this fantastic start and run this Eagles team. Oh, they don't play anybody. They don't beat anybody. We can argue that back and forth all we want. You bring up the Tennessee Titans. All of a sudden now, I haven't seen a ton of it. It hasn't been a total overreaction, but I've still seen the cockroaches come out of the woodwork here and now since the 4:30 yesterday. All of a sudden, the 7-4 division leading Tennessee Titans weren't a problem before, now all of a sudden, right? You brought up the Cincinnati Bengals last week. This is a Titans team that gave Cincinnati all they could handle. A Cincinnati team that just beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. May I take you back to week 9 when this same Titans team took the Chiefs to overtime and gave them all they could handle, when they held Patrick Mahomes to 20 points, when they held Joe Burrow and that offense to 20 points last week? They didn't hold the Eagles to 20 points. Scotty, actually, did you know that this Titans defense only allowed 20 points 2 times in the last 8 weeks? They didn't allow more than 20 points in the last 8 games. The Eagles had 21 early in the second quarter. They scored 35 yesterday. They had the backups in the fourth quarter. This is a Titans team that, if you can say anything about them, about their head coach, about their defensive front, Derrick Henry, they're not explosive. They're not uber talented offensively. They're not going to hang 42 points on you. They're limited against the pass defensively, but they are never going to roll. They are going to be the hardest win you get. They are going to fight you hard. You're going to take everything you got, like the Bengals, like the Chiefs.
Yeah.
They got pounded yesterday. That was brutal to watch if you're a Tennessee fan. Like, how real are we now, right? We thought we could.
There's levels, right? If you're a Titans fan, there's levels, and this shows you, like, the Eagles are up here, Titans are down here, and that's crazy. 100%. It opened my eyes in a sense. It opened my eyes, honestly, because that's
why I told you.
Like you said, I thought the Titans.
Statement.
This was the
statement of the year from this team. So there's just so much.
Weren't even fully locked in either. That's the thing I can't get past. Our offensive line had how many penalties?
The penalties, and I continue to say this. You brought up the defensive injuries. They're without the focal point of their offense in Dallas Goedert, and they just scored 40 and 35. Like, What are we doing here, man? Like it's great for me. I love it. But like again, Scotty, if you can't give the credit, if you can't see what this team is, you're still questioning, making excuses, talking about the schedule, talking about Hurts's arm, we probably can't have a serious conversation about anything in life. That's the point on that. And the last thing, the Jalen Hurts point. We walked out of Tampa Bay last year with what in mind? Can this kid ever win you a playoff game? Can he ever win you a game through the air with his arm? Not only has he checked that box multiple times throughout the year, he did it again yesterday. And Scotty, you just don't see what he's done in the last 2 weeks doesn't happen. Quarterbacks don't win a game on the ground with 157 rushing yards once on Sunday night and then turn around and throw for 380 and 3 touchdowns through 3 quarters. That doesn't happen. I'm at this point, Scotty, he's special. He doesn't make mistakes. He protects the football. The long ball, it's so accurate. It's so clean. He's so poised. The timing, everything's there now.
He threw about 5 long balls yesterday that hit.
Yeah.
He threw about 5 of them that hit.
Even the one where AJ, the one that was called back before the actual touchdown. Damn near perfect. I mean,
only AJ can catch
What are you going to say? Like the ball he's still, it was a tough catch, don't get me wrong, and he didn't come down in bounds, but it's as good of a ball as you're going to get, man. You mentioned the Washington game, the one that actually hits him on the arm. Not a great decision. Couldn't have thrown it any better. Like, you walked away from another game, not only saying this might be the Eagles' best win and the most dominating win, this was another game in which you walked away and said, was that his best game of his career? Like, I've had so many moments now this year where that's the best throw. That's the best moment. That's the best game. And here I am, week 13, and it's still happening. You know what that's telling me, Scotty? He's still going this way. The offense is still going this way.
That's the crazy part.
He is not plateaued out.
It's the crazy part, and the other side of that, kind of the way you laid that out there.
Great word,
over 300 rushing yards a week before, 350 plus passing yards the next week. It was like a flex to the rest of the league. You thought, because they run for over 350 rushing yards, that's all they can do. So then the very next week, we come out and we flex again, but it's the other way. It's the other arm, right? It's the other arm now. And now our passing offense is unstoppable. So it was really just a flex to the NFL. It almost felt like, to go out there and just destroy the Titans.
I'm so glad you just said that. I'm so glad you just said that.
And Jalen Hurts, I mean, my God, you talk about what he's doing, man. You're spot on. And we're going to talk about it after this, I'm sure. We'll probably migrate into it. But MVP, like we got to enter him in to this conversation, and he may very well be leading that conversation right now. The kid is just special, man. And AJ Brown obviously has made a ton of difference in this offense. Got to shout him out for the game yesterday. Hit our best bet. AJ Brown touched. That was a no-brainer yesterday. You knew they were going to make an emphasis to get him the ball, but coming out of this game, and it's happened like this a couple times this season where the Eagles have actually shown a much more balanced offense where they've ran the ball well and thrown the ball well. How do you stop this Eagles offense?
That's what I'm saying.
How do you stop it? The Eagles offense can stop themselves. They can shoot themselves in the foot all day. Don't get me wrong. The penalties, illegal man downfield,
fumbles a couple weeks ago,
fumbles, whatever the case may be. We've had some issues those last few weeks with that. But there is nothing that you can do scheme-wise that we can't out-scheme you the other way. There's nothing that Hurts can't do at this point. No. It's crazy. It's crazy, Dylan. There is nothing that Hurts can't do. It's insane.
And this wasn't week 13 against, the Houston Texans, against the Detroit Lions defense.
No.
This is arguably, I don't know the numbers. I haven't looked in depth to Tennessee's defense, but I just told you that they have not surrendered more than 20 points in 8 straight games, right? They have to be a top 10 unit. I know if there's a weak link in their defense, it's in the secondary, right? They're a little bit vulnerable through the air. That's what Sirianni attacked. I get that. There's a reason Mahomes and Burrow only score 20, bro. There's a reason they're that stout.
Exactly.
and the starters
Exactly.
didn't have to play the fourth quarter. Scotty, we probably could have dropped 49 yesterday, if we're being
Yeah,
honest.
absolutely.
If we wanted to, they could have dropped 49.
That's a funny thing. I know we're going to get to the Cowboys game.
Yeah,
they're funny, man.
We'll get to it. We'll get
They're
to it.
funny, dog.
And
we could have done that.
And one more thing, I said I was so glad you brought up the point about a flex to the rest of the NFL. That's what I meant by statement.
Yeah,
Not a statement to me and
absolutely.
you, a statement to national media, a statement to the league. Because this was a solid division leading playoff team that was supposed to maybe be a problem in the AFC to some teams. Yeah. Okay. Problem? No, they have a problem now. They have a problem. So, and again, this is no CGJ, no starting nickel, no Dallas Goedert. No problem, bro. No problem at all. And not to take it too far ahead, because obviously getting into next week, I watched the Giants tie the Commanders, and you watch all their injuries, and am I supposed to be afraid? I know it's an NFC East game. I know it's on the road. I know the next three are on the road. Am I supposed to be worried about this game? We're 6.5-point favorites on the road. See, they're about a 10-point favorite at this point, 9.5, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to get. We'll talk about it later on in the week, man. But this team, the sky is the limit. Ruben Frank on the post-game show yesterday on NBC Sports Philly, I saw the clip, essentially said, I forget word for word, but essentially said he's now reached the point where he will be surprised if they are not in the Super Bowl. And normally a guy like Ruben Frank, who's covered a lot of football and a lot of Eagles teams, you don't get that out of them a lot, right?
Yeah,
there's always doom and gloom or something around the corner. And this is a great point as well. We're going to get to that game in a little bit, but they're cooked. Well, what's the Baker Mayfield's coming to town? Oh, who played yesterday? Brock Purdy. Purdy. Listen, I know the defense. I know McCaffrey. I know Debo. Their question before was Jimmy G in the quarterback situation.
Right.
What's the question now? It's even worse. So we'll get to that too, a game, that San Fran and Dolphins game. But dude, anything else with this Eagles win? 11-1 now. Scotty, they legitimately have a shot to go 16-1, 15-2 at this point.
Yeah.
It's that serious. Obviously the Jets couldn't close the Vikings out, so the Vikings kind of stand right on our heels, and the Cowboys as well. But this team is for real, dude.
Yeah, I agree.
And you're right. And this is, Kyle, I brought up this stat earlier, and you actually bring up a good point. If they don't have all the short fields because of the turnover, the fumble, and because of the special teams, excuse me, that 18.8 is even lower if they don't give up 33 to Green Bay. You know what I mean? So that's skewed as well. So anything else, man?
No. I just thought, once again, another, check the box type of game for the Eagles. I will say, once again, I do think the defensive line is starting to play better somehow.
Sure.
It seems like the guys are getting more energized. Maybe it's
you brought up his name earlier. I'm sorry. You brought up his name earlier. Nakobe Dean.
Yeah. That's
plays
exactly
very limited snaps. Fourth quarter, comes in with the subs, right? The backups. Leads the team in tackles yesterday. He just knows how to find the football. I guess my question to you is, Kaiser White, I guess we're expecting him to be okay and be back. TJ Edwards, I know it's a short role. Does he have to find a role moving forward?
Have to? I mean, have to would be a stretch, I would feel, but I would say it's worth seeing what you got the rest of this season. He did. He looked really good. With Kaiser White, TJ Edwards, the way they've been playing, I wouldn't say have to, because I don't want to discredit them as if they have to get off the field. But Nakobe Dean needs to get some playing time. I would agree there. He was just making plays. You saw it, the initial play that he was in. He gets held, makes a tackle, and Derrick Henry for a loss. So literally, he finds the ball. He has a nose for it. He's got some supreme talent that he's working with there. What I would ultimately say, Dylan, I do wonder, maybe the usage, maybe it's something to do with the shoulder injury he came out of college with. Maybe. I would say next year is his time to really,
I know.
Going into this offseason, you make room for Nakobe Dean to start next year is my thinking
That's
there.
why.
And throughout the rest of this season, you just work him in there because they haven't been doing that. They should start working him in, though. I would agree there.
It's a great point.
Answer your question. He needs to see the field. Yes,
Yeah.
they do. They
need
to find a way.
And I guess if that was one of the flaws, the run defense, and you see him just have a nose for the ball and to fill gaps, he's got to be a guy that gets on the field. This is a great point as well. Not to mention Miles is most likely going to rush for over 1,000. They're very dynamic this year. I don't know if you're a Ravens fan, but
got to make the playoffs first, brother.
Your team stinks. Listen, I want to be as honest as I can. I know Lamar got hurt very early on. The Ravens look like they stink. Scotty, like,
yeah, the
I don't
talent
know
is
what
a
else to
void
say.
there,
They
bro.
lack skill position. They lack in the skill position department. That defense is flawed. The back end of the defense is flawed. Even before Lamar's injury, he's not.
They got into like this,
he's
like
come
12,
to terms with it this year. He's
12 point.
You know what it is? Actually, Nick,
Denver
you can
was
blame.
disgusting looking.
Now, listen. Actually, Nick, you can blame our friend Phil over here at DSM for your Ravens stinking now, because a few weeks ago, after I forget who they beat, Phil came out and predicted them making the Super Bowl versus the Eagles because they look so good. And ever since then, I don't know if they've won a game. So
They did win yesterday.
No,
they won by one.
Yeah, you can blame the beard for that.
Did they really win? I don't know.
For you. Oh, man.
Just
All
to
right,
D-Rab's point as well, just to bring that back up, he did point out to me earlier, we have a group chat together. Basically, Hurts, if he somehow pulls off some crazy stuff with his legs the rest of the season, hits 1,000, you could have 2,000-yard rushers and 2,000-yard receivers, which is just insane from an offensive standpoint. But no, what a game. What a game. What a way to go into a game with the Giants now, where you have to ask yourself, do you think the Giants are going to be able to keep up next week? So
yeah, no, I know, man.
Can't wait. Can't wait for the next one. Can't wait for Eagles football. It's one of those things where each week I'm just like ready to get to the next Sunday after.
Yeah, especially because they have to one up this team again. So
yeah, we got to get it back. Got to get it back to the Eagles side there because the Phillies are in the lead right now.
All right, man. Let's skip over to another headline in this episode, and that is the Sunday Night Football matchup between the.
Before we move, this is a conversation for another day, I think.
Yeah.
But the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, what they've put together there versus the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. You could even go Jalen Hurts versus Lamar Jackson and what you want each to be.
Mm-hmm. You know my thoughts on Lamar. I don't think Lamar's a top 10 quarterback, but I know how talented he is. What Baltimore's front office has done to help out that side of the ball is an atrocity. They're like, when I say stink, their skill, like if Devin Duvernay, if Rashad Bateman, those are your 1 and 2 options, right? Your backfield, you have to bring in and sign Deshaun Jackson at this point. If Gus Edwards is your RB1 again, all of a sudden,
this is where I cross.
Like you have bigger fish to fry, man. You got bigger problems, and you need to figure some stuff out in the offseason. I'm not a Hollywood Brown guy, but the fact that you thought we can just move on from him and we have a wide receiver 1, that was pretty crazy to me for Baltimore. So we had this conversation, 2 short weeks ago. You wanted to do a kind of like an updated divisional playoff seeding look, and we had the conversation. Cincinnati's schedule versus Baltimore in the lead. Cincinnati right now is going to win that division, Scott. I really don't think there's a question about it, unless that schedule just becomes too much at some point. I don't know. Also, has there been any word on Lamar's injury? Is it, how serious is it? Is it
couple? From what I heard, Harbaugh said it would be like a couple weeks at least. Wow. Not season ending, but a couple weeks. So
well, it might be season ending because they might have just played them out of the playoffs. But all right, man, let's stay in the NFC East. Colts, Cowboys, Sunday Night Football, 54-19. First and foremost, I want to ask you, does that tell the story? Listen, I don't want to come off as too much of a hater, and I've already said on the show to you, on Twitter, to multiple people, you know how I feel about Dallas as an Eagles fan. But I'm not naive enough to downplay what they're able to do offensively, to downplay that defense, right? I know they're a very, very good team. I know Christmas Eve is going to be tough. I know if we see them in the playoffs, it's going to be tough. But does 54 tell the story? because this was a 21-19 ball game with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. And honestly, if you want to talk about class of the NFC, if you want to talk about how winning teams handle football, did the Eagles starters play the fourth quarter? No. Dallas wanted to run the score up and get to 54.
It was interesting because I did watch it play out. I had a couple plays in last night.
I mean, I'm happy I had an Ezekiel Elliott anytime touchdown. I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example. They forced that one. I mean, they forced that Zeke touchdown. They made sure that Zeke got involved in the action because it seems like they were trying to get all their stars a touchdown. So they got CeeDee Lamb.
I don't mean to cut you off, but let me put it to you this way. You know, when you score and there's a celebration and some people are like, show me you've been there before. That's what this felt like to Dallas. They didn't know how to handle that. Like, show me you've been there before, dude. Matt Ryan, Colts, fumble, interception. You're up by 28 in middle, halfway through the fourth quarter. You felt the need to keep the starters in and to force another touchdown. Show me you've been there before I start to take you seriously, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from with that. I don't know. There's part of me though, man, where there's times where the Eagles are blowing teams out, and I'm just like, man, like just don't stop.
We
in
want
the third
that
quarter, right?
That's irresponsible.
You know what I mean?
At the end
but is
of
it
the
the
day.
smart?
Because what happens
that's-
when Jalen Hurts takes a hit? He don't need to take up 28 in the fourth quarter. Then could you imagine social media if that happened? He tweaks an ankle with 2 minutes left because they're still trying to move the ball because Nick Sirianni wants to score 54.
Yeah, I don't know what their motivation was, honestly. Like, there's no like hard rivalry between the Colts and the Cats. Like, I don't know what the motivation was to kind of just run it up. They scored 33 points in the fourth quarter, which is obviously a lot. It was more defensive based from my perception. Like, their defense just kept forcing turnovers. Indianapolis just kept turning the ball over, I guess you could say. But they had like 4 or 5 turnovers in the fourth quarter.
Touchdown. Wasn't there in the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I mean, it might. I can't remember if the fumble got. Yeah, it did. Malik Hooker returned that one for a touchdown. There might have been 2. No, one got called back because it was like sitting. Matt Ryan got sacked and the ball was just like laying on his stomach and the guy picked it up and he got touched.
And my point isn't to take like that's Dallas's defense causing those turnovers. I'm not taking away from it. I'm talking about show me you've been there. After your defense does that 2 times, and I don't know, you're up 40-19 with 8 minutes left. What are we doing? What are you still doing? And it's
I don't know.
It's not even just the team. It's not even just the team. Who do we hate most? What do we hate most about Cowboys? About the Cowboys?
Their fans.
Yeah, right. I saw a post from a Cowboys content creator fan. I don't know who he was. It was a snip of the Eagles score versus Indianapolis and right below it a snip of their score versus Indianapolis. And I'm just like, and there's all these comments from Cowboys fans, rah, rah. I don't know if you saw them chanting Eagles suck when they were leaving the stadium last night. That's how far up we are in their heads. Like, do I need to put the snippet of the Green Bay score versus their Green Bay score? Like, they live in such a fantasy world where when it's convenient to them, when it works on their side, when it's favorable to them, they'll post it, but then they're quiet about some other things. I think that's what gets me started more about it. It ain't the Cowboys. I know they're a dangerous team. I can't stand their fan base.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I can't stand their fans either. And for those reasons, it's completely hypocritical. And mind you, we've chanted F Dallas before at our games, and that's fine. I'm just saying we're not the ones that call people out for it. It's just that they called us out on it, and now y'all are doing it. Like, that's corny. But it just seems like that running up of the score, if we want to call it that, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what I'll call it.
It's the Cowboys way, man. Like, I feel like that's what they do. Like, there's no shame in their game. Like, I feel like that's what they do. You look back a couple weeks ago, 40-3, the Vikings, right? That was total domination, of course. But they kept their starters going up until halfway through the fourth. Against the Bears, 49-29. They made sure they scored 21 points in that fourth quarter to run that score up. So I get it in a sense of you want to secure the win, but there's a line. There's a line that you draw and that you don't cross. And, you know, if this was like the NFL back in the day, like not today's age, right, where people hold grudges and don't, you know, just get happy with participating. that would be disrespectful, right? To the Colts, to their sideline, to what they are doing as an organization. And I'm not saying that you have to take your foot off the gas, but in a sense, it was a little disrespectful in a sense, but I don't know. I'm with you. There's weeks where I want the Eagles to do similar things, but that's me as a fan. That's not me thinking what's best for
Yeah. You
my
want to see
favorite
more.
football
I
team
said
and what
to
they
you,
wanna do
I
going
said to you
forward.
in the third quarter, I was like, I want 42, right? And whatever.
Yeah.
I don't listen. I'm not even going to go the disrespectful route, which you're right in a sense. It is, but what I mean by show me you've been there before, it's like they think they're proving something. It's like they think like, look at us, like, congrats. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, someone tell them it's not the World Cup. There's no goal difference. There's no point differential.
Bro,
There's no net.
it reminds me because like they've been doing this for a while, and it's always been with Dak Prescott, and it's like padding their stats. Like,
Yeah. Well,
I
speaking of
swear
that-
that's what it
speaking of
is. Like, they were like deliberately going to Michael Gallup at points in the game, like to get him touchdowns. Like, I don't know. It's weird. I just wonder what the motivation is there.
Well, and again, speaking of the double standard, Pollard rushed for 7.6 per carry. Elliott rushed for 4.5. Right? They ran for over 165, 170. Dak was 20 of 30 for 170 and a pick. Are there people out there saying they can't win through the air? It's only on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, I know they can win through the air, but people want to pick and choose when an argument favors them, when numbers favor them, and that they stay blind, they stay tone deaf to the opposite side of the argument, the other side of the line, right? So my whole point about this was the Cowboys game. The Cowboys won another game. They stay relevant for the division title. Now that Christmas Eve game can still mean something right now at this point in time. I get all that. Are you impressed by it? I guess that's my question. Because there's some people that don't care. There's some people that I think care too much. And it's now I don't know if you saw somehow, I don't know what metrics ESPN's using. The Cowboys somehow have a 50% chance to make the Super Bowl.
Okay. It was made by a Cowboys fan, I guess.
And
like,
the Eagles have like a 23%. Like, well, what are we doing?
Based on what? Based on the Cowboys coming to Philadelphia and having to play us in Philly? Like, based on what? But that's whatever. I'll tell you what. The Cowboys, their defense has been impressive as it has been this entire season. They've actually cleaned up the run a little bit, similar to what we've done with our defense in a sense. The player that's not impressive is Dak Prescott, man. And I get it. He didn't have to do too much last night. The 3 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. That's where the numbers get misleading, right? That ain't Dak Prescott getting that.
Can I tell you
3
why?
touchdowns, 1 interception. It really should have probably been, if the Colts were a decent team, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions.
Not just that. Can I tell you something? Can I tell you why context matters and why I brought up the running up of the score? When was that one Michael Gallup touchdown pass? Last touchdown of the game, second to last touchdown of the game, after the whatever, all that happened.
I think Zeke's was the last.
When was that interception? When the game so you see if that's a better team, you don't have that touchdown pass at the end of the game because you're not up 45. That interception on your own side of the field in a 1-possession game, that's my point about context, right? And how they want to ignore things. Oh, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. No. He threw a bad interception on his own side of the field to give the Colts a chance to take the lead.
Yeah.
He threw one of the 3 touchdowns with 22 seconds left when they were up by 45. I'm joking, but like context does matter.
And it wouldn't be like this big thing, I feel like, if they were just running the football at the end of the game and that's how they scored. I think it would be different. They were throwing the football up by 3 scores, like throwing the football to get into the red zone so you can get Zeke a touchdown. It's just odd. Like, I mean, it's whatever. Like, do what you do. Zeke gets injured in that time. That's on you guys. Like, Dak gets injured in that time. That's on you guys. But I just wonder what the motivation is. Like, are the Eagles watching? Like, I just wonder, like, what is it? You just want to score as much as you can? Like, I get it. Just not at the expense of my players' health. Zeke hasn't been healthy the last few weeks. Dak has came off an injury this season. Doesn't make sense to me, man. It really doesn't. I don't know. It's like they wanted to like showcase their vehicles last night and really put them out there on the track. It was really odd, man. I don't know. Maybe I I'm obviously biased. Like I'm
No,
obviously biased.
I'm
trying
trying
not
to
to be
preach the
like,
same sentiment right now. I
you know
agree
what I
with you.
mean?
It's odd behavior.
It's weird.
I'll
Yeah,
put it
it's
that
just
way.
weird. Yeah,
It's like
leave it at
it's
that.
like
Yeah.
what you watch the Eagles win 35-10. You're looking at social media. We got to outdo that. Were you embarrassed by the fact that you were only up by 2 at home at the end of the third quarter? So you wanted to punish the Colts in the foot. I don't know what you wanted to accomplish by scoring 54 last night. You scored 30.
Yeah, like if you could do that, then do it in the beginning of the game. I don't know,
It's fun.
whatever.
It's cool,
Interesting
man.
game. Hey, good win by the Dallas Cowboys. Good
Really
win.
good win.
Good win.
Semi-impressive. Not all that impressive as in terms of how some people are acting about it.
Just
All right,
the score. Like the score is not impressive.
speaking of suspect quarterback play versus a really good defense, this might have been the shock of the day for me. I know they were technically underdogs. I got the line at +5 to open up the game. San Fran 33, Miami 17. You see what I mean about the inconsistency all year, Scotty? You see what I mean about why I can't figure out what teams are? The Miami Dolphins in Tua Tagovailoa throw a 75-yard touchdown on the first play of the game. They start up 7, 10 seconds in. Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt on like the second possession, broken foot. He's done for the year. Brock Purdy has to come in. You got outscored 33-10 the rest of the way. So what am I supposed to make of this? Because obviously I'm not taking San Fran all that serious anymore. Unless Brock Purdy, they call him Mr. Irrelevant. Unless he somehow is something that nobody knew about. What?
He's got moxie.
Yeah.
That's what they were saying last night.
Unless he's got something that we don't know about, I can't take anything from this win positive about San Fran because to me, their season's probably over. Reversely, if you're Miami, who I had in my top 3 power rankings, who I had as competition to Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC, what am I supposed to make of this? Yeah, the numbers, I get it. 295 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyreek went for 146 and a big play touchdown. Tua threw 2 horrifying picks in the middle of this ball game to allow Brock Purdy and the San Fran team to run it up on them. What am I supposed to make of this, Scotty? How bad is this for Miami?
I don't think it's horrific. This is the number one defense in the NFL that they were playing against yesterday. Right. I really don't. I really don't think it's horrific. Jalen Waddle goes down with an injury. And quite honestly, Tua had his worst game of the season. The decision-making just wasn't there yesterday.
Hold on. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not just specifically talking offense. If I'm talking contention, if your defense allows 33 to Brock Purdy, how am I supposed to take you seriously against Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow? That's my question. Are you worried about the defense as well, not just Tua?
I guess you could say you're worried about the defense. I will once again say when you're going through a QB change mid-game, they probably were not game planning for Brock Purdy to come into this game. Jimmy Garoppolo is more of a statue in the pocket in a sense, so it is a kind of a different game plan. I will say I didn't trust Miami's defense too much to begin with. So it is overall, you're right. It is a disappointing showing from the defense specifically, but you also had Tua Tagovailoa out there putting them in terrible situations, throwing the interceptions. Right. He also had a fumble that he lost as well. So Tua, I'm pointing to Tua for this game because if Tua has a Tua game, they win this game and we don't even think anything about it. Like if Tua just doesn't come out and make those wrong decisions, those mistakes, then I think we're looking at a Dolphins win here. I think it's as simple as that because there was a point in the game where, what was it?
They were only down
to 17.
Yeah.
Was it 23-17? And then I think Tua throws an interception or fumbles the football. So right there, if you're able to go down and score, you could take the lead in this game. Defense has to be better. I will say that. They need to get healthier. Obviously, Howard's coming back from injury. He needs to get healthier out there. But concerning for their defense, I guess because I wasn't a true believer in their defense, I always looked at them as an offensive powerhouse, and that's what they're going to rely on in the end anyways. So that may be why I feel that way. Just looking at Tua's numbers, he's just got to be better. But was it an impressive win for San Fran? without Jimmy G, right? Like that defense
Very
is
impressive.
like legitimate for real.
But I
for
think
real.
there has to
Like,
be a cap for them right now.
got to be levels to it, right?
Like
Because
Brock
there
Purdy
is
ain't
an
dropping 33 every week.
unknowingness of Brock Purdy. Now you look at the film of Brock Purdy coming into this next game that San Fran plays. There's going to be a game plan specifically for him. How's he going to respond to that? That's the real question there, right? So it was an impressive adjustment, I guess, by San Fran, or I don't know what you want to call it, but weird game with that happening. But yeah, I guess it's a disappointing loss for Miami overall. Nonetheless, you are correct in that sense.
No, I guess I'm just being maybe overcritical of them because when I come into a game, like me and you focused on yesterday's show. We didn't focus. We never expected Miami to have this lapse. We were talking San Fran. How do you look? Can I take you for real? And so when I come into this game thinking this could be a statement win by Miami, and
now you have questions.
San Fran didn't beat them 21-19. San Fran beat them 33-17, down 7.
And they did drop 30-plus points. And they did drop 30-plus points on the Miami Dolphins, which I asked if they could do that. They went out there and did that yesterday with a backup quarterback. So, yeah, I mean, I will have to agree with you there. It raises the question marks higher on their defense for me, for sure. Right. If you can't come out and just take care of business, that's a big game, big stage. And not only that, they weren't able to protect Tua very well either yesterday. No. Well, that's a bad sign as well. When you're talking about you might play the Cowboys, you might play the Eagles in the playoffs. That's not a good look, right? When Bosa's excuse me, that's the Dolphins. They're on the other side. I was thinking about the 49ers.
No,
Dolphins on the other side. But you know what I'm getting at. Pass rush and offensive line. It's important.
Yeah,
no game yesterday.
I'm trying to find the balance of I know as an Eagles fan how you should not be overcritical of one performance. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the Washington week, it was one performance. It was actually the first loss that Miami surrendered when Tua starts and finishes a game. So Tua is essentially what's Tua 9-1 now, 8-1, whatever he is technically.
8-1, I think.
But at this point in the season, when I'm looking for something from you and I get the complete opposite in negative fashion, it just hit me a little differently. I was like, wow, like maybe they're not as for real, but who knows?
And to your point, I mean, you look at this game now and it makes you question the last 5 that you observed, right? Like coming into this game, I was talking about the Dolphins scoring 30+ in their last 3 games. Since Tua's been back, they've dropped 30 in their last 4 games. They've dropped 30, right? But it was against the Lions, the Bears, the Browns, the Texans. And then the first sign of a top 5 defense and the Dolphins offense just starts turning the ball over and malfunctioning. That's Jaylen a bad Waddle, sign,
did
right?
Did he get hurt yesterday? Did I miss something?
He did get hurt. That's a key. Yeah, that is a key.
Because I was wondering why I saw one catch for 9 yards. I was like, wow.
He was injured. Yeah, he was dealing with some injuries there. So that's another caveat to the system, right? That's a cog that gets removed and kind of hurts the offense for sure. But I don't know. They've had impressive wins this season, against the Ravens earlier this year, against the Bills. It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. Maybe it was just a stinker by Tua. Maybe they move on and he bounces back next week. They play the Chargers, so another good test. They're in LA.
So 2 small things before I get into the final game being Kansas City and Cincinnati with you. Washington and the Giants. We were like, which team gets the upper hand? Moves themselves.
Neither. Isn't that hilarious? Because I had a hard time picking the winner of this one, and if I would have known draw was an option.
What do you make of this one?
What's up?
What do you make of this? I
thought you had another game.
No. What do you make of these two now?
It was, to me, it was like a mid off. Like both of these teams are just mid as hell. Just squaring off and meeting in the middle. It can't beat the other.
How the hell is this the one team that gave the Eagles a loss this year?
That's what that's the other side of it, man. That's the other side of it. I'm with you there.
It was rough, man. But ultimately it was extremely funny. But I guess on a positive note for both of those teams, it's not one in the loss column for them. So it's a
good thing, man.
It's not worst case scenario for one side, and they both kind of stick around in that playoff scenario. Although obviously Seattle comes away with the win against LA, that's the team they're kind of fighting off for that other wild card spot probably. So we'll see how that plays out. The other game, you want to talk mid off? I almost said suck off, which would have been really bad, but Baltimore, Denver, and I don't even mean Baltimore because of Huntley and Lamar's injury. Again, I'm looking here. Denver's offense, Russell Wilson, Nathaniel cannot hack it. When is he fired? When
I don't know.
Fired.
9 points.
I ask the world again, what does Nathaniel Hackett do? What's he do? I don't know the answer, Scotty. And again, they scored 9 points. So obviously the weight of the world falls on the quarterback. And he's been horrible this year. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, Scotty, he was 17 of 22 and didn't turn the ball over. So it's like, what went wrong within the offense? You know what I mean? Like, he was able to move the ball a little bit down the field. What failed?
Just not taking chances, I guess. I really don't know. They've scored 9 points.
What those numbers mean. I don't.
4 times this season they've scored 9 points in a game, Dylan. Like, I don't understand how that happens. This is the NFL. The Texans are better than that. Like, I don't know, man. And the Ravens, I mean, that speaks for themselves. But
and is this that game? Is this play design? Is this the wide receivers? Maybe we overrated. Like Cortland Sutton, 0 catches, 1 target. Like that's a problem. When Greg Dulcich leads your team in receptions and targets and yards, probably a red flag. No. Yeah.
Russell Wilson was only sacked twice. I mean,
that's my point. That's when you look at the numbers, because obviously I was not watching that game. What happens? And to me, obviously the eyes go to the $285 million man, and no doubt, a 50-50 split, if not more, towards Russ. But Nathaniel Hackett he's got to be the first shoe to drop, right? And my question, if you're Denver,
it has to be him.
My question, if you're Denver, is how do you not do it before the season ends? I say that because of this. They're obviously not going anywhere this year, but if you let him finish the year out and you make that move in the offseason, you're heading through an entire offseason still not knowing really which side was more of an issue. If you remove Nathaniel Hackett now, and this offense moves on without him, and now you get Russell Wilson, and they continue to look poor, or they play a little bit better because the ceiling's obviously not going much higher, but they look a little bit better. You have a better understanding this offseason, whether it's Russ, the coach, a combination of both. You let both finish the year, you have no idea what to fix next offseason.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair way to look at it. And if I was them, I mean, I wouldn't waste any time. This has been a ridiculous season for them. We were talking about them and the Raiders. Well, the Raiders have kind of turned it around in a sense. They've
2 or 3 coaches have lost their jobs already this year. How is he not one of them?
Yeah, how is Nathaniel Hackett not one of them, man? I don't know. Part of me is like, they don't have to do that because Russell Wilson's going to be there regardless. Don't nobody else want him. He's going to be there regardless. But I do feel you. You want to see what you have so you can improve it and know where you need to improve. So, and aside from them, how about the Chargers dropping that game to the Las Vegas Raiders, man? Yeah, I know we don't have a ton of time here because I'm glad you bring that up. Frauds, but
I'm glad you bring that up. Frauds. That's all I got.
That's it. It's it.
And what they're getting healthier. Like Keenan Allen's back. He scored a big touchdown.
No excuses.
They still have injuries across the board, but they're getting healthier than they were in weeks past. What is the excuse now? You know what I mean? Like what?
Herbert has to elevate this team at some point. He has to elevate this team at some point. This is 3 seasons now they haven't made the playoffs. They're not going to make the playoffs, man. Like, it's sad. They're in the wrong trajectory. The Raiders are actually 1 game back of the Chargers. So, like, the Chargers play the Dolphins next week, which I would say they're going to lose to the Dolphins. The Raiders play the Rams. Rams have lost 6 straight. So, literally, we could look next week after Sunday and the Raiders and Chargers be in the same spot within their
division. Is ridiculous.
And we were laughing at the Raiders.
Where the season started, utterly ridiculous. Justin Herbert has the arm. He's got all the talent in the world. Dude, he threw for 335. didn't throw a pick, right? Had a 45-yard touchdown pass.
How does that
To me,
happen?
I'll tell you what it is. I think Brandon Staley might be the biggest fraud in the entire National Football League. We've talked about him in the past between clock management, between end of game situations, between leaving Justin in, taking him out, between play calling. Again, I know it is a pass heavy league all across the board. I
I
understand
know where
that,
you're going
Scotty.
with this.
You were winning 13-10 at halftime. Why are you throwing the ball 47 times to 17 carries?
And why are the Raiders doing
And-
what you're supposed to be doing?
And in what world are you not, like, whether it's analytics based, whatever it is, like we come on here and we talk about Tampa Bay and what they do and their discrepancy between the pass and the run. And all these teams, what's the common denominator between the 48 passes to 17 carry teams? You know what they all result in this year, Scotty? Losses.
Yeah.
So what, week to week,
You know what it is? You know what it is? These teams, they think that they're the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're not. You're not. That is not Patrick Mahomes. And I think the Eagles have even fell into this a couple times. You know what I mean? Where just run the damn football. Like, even the Buffalo Bills are starting to run the football, and guess what? Things are starting to go a little bit better for them. Every team that you see start to run the football, the Raiders, look at Josh Jacobs. They're starting to give him the ball religiously. And they're getting W's. They now have 5 on the season. They're trending in the right trajectory.
Right.
It's all about balance. These teams are trying to chase the Kansas City Chiefs of the world.
You know what's so crazy
the Los
about
Angeles
that?
Rams from last year.
You know what's so
You
crazy
don't
about
have
that?
to.
Even Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes understand you need to have balance and and play situational football. Yeah, you're damn right. There's going to be weeks Patrick Mahomes throws the ball 52 times. Yesterday, I know they lost, so it's a bit whatever. It was a close game down to the end. It was 27 passes to 22 carries for Kansas City.
Yeah.
They were balanced. They played a hard-fought game. I know they had the same end result, but that's rare for them in that situation. I don't know what you're chasing. I don't know the rhyme or reason. It's a bad look for a lot of these teams. It's a bad look for Brandon Staley. I think he's as fraudulent as they come in the National Football League. Justin Herbert gets all the weight of the world on his shoulders. And I'm not saying he couldn't be better. I'm not saying he can't elevate that team. But it starts with the play calling and the head coach for me in LA, and that's the problem. Last game,
that's the clear discrepancy in that game is running the football versus not. Like that's
and how many times
can see it in the numbers.
How many times this year are we going to talk about these games, and how many of them have been blowouts where you can understand the 52 passes? No. It's always a one possession game where one of these teams throws the ball 58 times. That makes zero sense. Like, what are you winning a game by 10 for and midway through the third quarter and your ratios here to here pass run? What is the reasoning there? What's the explanation?
Makes no sense.
Last game to get into before we wrap up. Chiefs, Bengals. Gotta tip my cap to you, brother. Joey cool. Joe Breezy outplaying Patrick Mahomes, beating him 3 straight times. 27-24 in Cincy. Really good game. I'd say a little bit different style of a game. We probably envision more big plays, more explosiveness. You know, Mahomes only threw for 223. Burrow was fantastic. 25-31, 286, 2 touchdowns. Didn't turn the ball over. Somehow, here's the importance about running the football, everybody. Samaje effing Perine ran the ball 21 times for 106 yards. They won the game.
Crucial.
It's crazy how that works, Scotty, isn't it? It's really weird how that works. But ultimately, like I said to you kind of before this game started, if the Chiefs lost, I think you said the same kind of thing here. If the Chiefs lost, not that it's okay or they get a pass, but they were due. It was going to be a tough game. This, to me, screams how impressive and the trajectory Cincinnati and Joe Burrow are on.
The only negative that I would take away for Kansas City, because like you just said, it's a loss. It happens. This is a good team. It's as simple as that. This is a team that went to the Super Bowl last year that you lost to. I'm not saying that it's the case. It's just the thought that maybe Joe Burrow has Kansas City's number, right? He's 3-0 against them now. 3 in a row, actually. Everybody keeps saying 2 in a row, but they did beat them in the regular season last year as well. That would be the only negative that is not even confirmed that you could take away from it, is that Joe Burrow has beat you 3 times, 2 times in a row where it's been a pretty hyped up game, right? Joe Burrow versus Patrick Mahomes. And the Chiefs weren't able to come away with it. I would also say against the Bills and now the Bengals this year in big AFC matchups, they have lost as well. But I'm not going to go and just start screaming out worries and stressing about the Kansas City Chiefs and what they're doing, man. They've showed they're a well-oiled machine. They'll come back next week. They'll get it together. And we if there's any team we don't have to worry about in the NFL, I would say it's the Kansas City Chiefs. But yes, impressive win nonetheless by the Bengals. They just keep on chugging. Got Chase back in the mix yesterday. The defense looks really good and hungry. I thought that was the difference in the game, quite honestly, that Travis Kelce fumble. That's not even him really he fumbled, but they ripped it from him, right? That's a defense playing aggressive, going after the ball. And they made the difference in that game. Ultimately, they play with a swagger. They play with a confidence.
Yeah, see,
as champion teams do.
That's the part that's interesting to me with this, right? When we talk about the great ones, Brady, we saw Tyrann Mathieu do it in the Super Bowl, right? And we saw how that ended. Mahomes, you tend to not want to do one thing. You tend not to want to poke the bear. And Justin Reed for Kansas City made some comments earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase and the Bengals took it personally. Jamar Chase taunting, the back and forth scuffle. So this is a rivalry now. And normally the great ones, the GOATs, are coming out on top of those rivals. You don't want to poke the bear. You don't want to piss him off.
Yeah.
The Bengals are poking the bear, and they're finding a way to escape with wins, escape with their lives.
Very good way to put it. Very good way to put it.
So that's the impressive thing to me. They're not sliding by. It's not taking heroics by Jamar Chase or Joe Burrow or multiple turnovers by Mahomes.
Yeah.
No, man, this is mano a mano, man to man. I'm going to beat you at your own game. And that's essentially what they did yesterday. The defense, the balance offensively, Burrow, efficiency, Higgins, Boyd, Chase, they were extremely, extremely good yesterday. Great game. Potential AFC Championship rematch again coming up this year. We'll see. But nonetheless, big win for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Not a good loss for Kansas City, but an understandable loss. And I expect them to bounce back next week. Before we wrap up here, man, obviously we have a Monday Night Football game tonight. Wow.
Good luck picking that.
Well, I can pick. Listen, I'm taking Bucks. I actually like the Bucks.
Yeah, same.
Andy Dalton primetime is worse than Kirk Cousins primetime. It's really, really bad. The Saints
Are you gonna
offense.
put the money on it?
I'm gonna feel it out.
Thinking about it?
But I guess my point is, me and you, we like to give best bets out. We're gonna give a best bet out for the Sixers game as well in the pregame show. What is our best bet tonight in this Monday Night Football matchup?
Yes, sir. So we are going with Rachaad White over 2.5 receptions tonight, sitting at plus 125 on DraftKings.
Yes, sir.
Last week, me and you talked about it before the show. Last week, Rachaad White had 9 receptions in that game against the Browns in overtime. Not that we think he's going to get 9 again, but this is another tough defense.
I need a third of
team that can get after the quarterback. Exactly. Tom Brady's going to have to get the ball out quick, as he always does against New Orleans. And he's going to be trying to have a clean game, right? That means a lot of dump-offs to the running back. Rachaad White is the guy on the passing downs. Now, I know Leonard Fournette should be back tonight. That'll make a little bit of the difference as far as Rachaad White being the said bell cow.
Right.
But he will, at the very least, be in on all passing downs going forward, which bodes well for this hitting. But once again, just emphasizing how good New Orleans defense is. They held the 49ers to 13 points last week. Obviously, they still lost by 13. So but they were able to hold a fiery 49ers offense to 13 points. So it is still a good defense there. But you have to wonder, man, what are the New Orleans Saints playing for right now? Like,
they're playing for my draft pick.
First round pick. You know what I mean? Like,
they're playing for my draft
losing.
Pick,
I mean, we'll take it. Like, it's a tough situation for them. Their GM put them in a hell of a pickle there. But no, Rachaad White over 2.5 receptions tonight. Best bet of the night. There are a couple different avenues you can go in this game, though, man. You got Bucks money line minus 180.
Yeah.
I like that. Like, I don't know if I'm 100% on the Bucks winning tonight just because they've been so spotty. but they have all the motivation in the world. They need to win this game in order to make the playoffs, right? The under 41, that's sitting at -110. I actually really like that. I had Rachaad White touchdown anytime. I don't know as much with Leonard Fournette back. I probably wouldn't go that route. Chris Godwin's interesting because I saw Mike Evans was questionable, doubtful for the game. So Chris Godwin's actually been trending up the last few weeks as far as his production. So that's a nice anytime touchdown plus 175 for Chris Godwin. But I went away from all of those, went for the Rachaad White over on the receptions.
I like that. And honestly, dude, I do like the money line. I know the spread's 3.5 if it's still sitting at that line. So I tend to like that as well. But you really do never know with the Saints defense, as you mentioned.
This division.
The bad blood between Evans and Lattimore and how that always plays out. What Brady and offense do you get this week?
The Brady's numbers against New Orleans. Can I just read those to you while you're there? 5 games he's played against the Saints as a Buccaneer.
Maybe that's
59.7% completion percentage, 245.4 yards per game, 7 touchdowns, 8 interceptions.
Maybe that's the play. It's plus money right now. I saw that. I think it's plus 105 for him to throw.
That might be the move. That's why. Hey, a second best bet. Over 1 interception for Tom Brady. I would throw it down.
Over half. Just one play. Yeah, just need one.
So just one.
Yeah,
just one. Yeah. So one interception. I would throw that down.
I'm thinking about it, man. I really am. I'm thinking about that one. So we'll see.
I need to take a look at that after. Yeah.
But guys,
I'm excited now. I got another one.
That is going to wrap up this Monday night edition of Turd Talk here on DSM Media. Don't forget to check us out at DSM_media on Twitter. Don't forget to check out either of our great sponsors over at Gents Barber Lounge, locations in Fishtown and Old City. You can book your appointment at gentsbarberlounge.com today. And check our friends out at Luxinen Jewelers at shopluxinen.com. Use promo code DSM, all caps, 25% off and free shipping. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your night. Go Bucks. Need a Saints loss tonight. Go Birds. And come hang out with us on Sixers pregame live at 7 p.m. on the YouTube channel.
Yes,
later.
Sir.